Can you imagine a biological pump so powerful it could shoot a column of liquid 40 feet straight into the air? That's the height of a 4-story building. This isn't a piece of industrial machinery. It's not a fantasy creature. This was a heart, a real, living heart, weighing an estimated 800 pounds, that beat inside a creature walking this planet. Its sole purpose, to fight a constant, desperate war against gravity. If that heart so much as skipped a beat, the animal's brain, perched 40 feet above it, would be starved of oxygen. The result, catastrophic, instantaneous blackout. Meet Brachiosaurus, the walking skyscraper, the living impossibility. This wasn't just a giant dinosaur. This was a giant built on a completely different blueprint. In a world of long, low suspension bridge sauropods, Brachiosaurus did the unthinkable. It built itself uphill. Today on Weird Animal Evolution, we aren't just meeting a giant. We are deconstructing a biological paradox. How did this creature's body solve an engineering problem that would baffle human designers? Why was it built like a giraffe on a nightmarish scale? And what was the real, bizarre truth behind the most famous nose in prehistory? Get ready. We're climbing the giant of the Jurassic. To understand how weird Brachiosaurus was, we first have to understand where it lived. We're in the late Jurassic, around 154 to 150 million years ago, in what is now North America. This was the kingdom of giants. But even here, Brachiosaurus was an exception. When we say big, it's hard to comprehend. We're talking about an animal 85 feet long, 26 meters. But its length isn't the story, it's the height. Brachiosaurus stood between 40 and 50 feet tall, 12 to 15 meters. It weighed, well, estimates vary wildly, which is part of its mystery. Anywhere from 30 to 60 tons. Let's split the difference, 50 tons. That is the combined weight of 10 large African elephants. It was a high-rise building of flesh and bone, moving through the landscape. And to support that size, to solve the problem of gravity, it adopted an evolutionary strategy that almost no other giant ever dared to try. Its name gives us the first clue. Brachiosaurus means arm lizard. Why arm lizard? Because its front legs are shockingly, bizarrely longer than its back legs. This sounds like a simple detail, but it changes everything. Look at its famous cousin, Diplodocus. Diplodocus is built like a classic suspension bridge. Its back legs are the main towers, and its body is the roadway, with the neck and tail balancing each other out perfectly. It was a horizontal specialist, built to sweep its head low or browse at medium height. Brachiosaurus threw that design in the trash. By making its arms longer than its hind legs, it created a permanent, built-in incline. Its entire 50-ton chassis was tilted upwards. Its shoulders were the highest point, giving its neck a launch pad that was already 20 feet off the ground. This is the giraffe strategy. But a giraffe is a lightweight. A giraffe weighs 2 tons. Brachiosaurus weighed 50. It was a vertical specialist. It didn't compete with the Stegosaurus eating ferns or the Diplodocus eating at 20 feet. It aimed higher. It was the only animal that could systematically mow down the tops of the 40-foot conifer trees. It had evolved to exploit a food source no one else could touch. But this incredible advantage came at a terrible cost. This uphill design created the single greatest engineering challenge in the history of life. The 40-foot problem. How do you get blood uphill 40 feet from the heart to the brain? For a 6-foot human, our heart has to pump blood about 18 inches to our brain. It's a modest incline. For a giraffe, the record holder today, the heart pumps blood 10 feet vertically. Brachiosaurus had to pump its blood at least 25 to 30 feet straight up from its heart, just to reach the base of its skull. A giraffe's blood pressure is the highest of any living animal, more than double ours, just to manage that 10-foot climb. To solve its 30-foot problem, Brachiosaurus would have needed a resting blood pressure 3 to 4 times higher than a giraffe's. This is a biological nightmare. That much pressure would instantly destroy the delicate blood vessels in the brain and lungs. The animal would die from a massive stroke every time its heart beat. Unless its heart wasn't just a pump, It had to be a masterpiece of evolutionary engineering. Scientists estimate the heart of a Brachiosaurus would have been 5 to 6 feet long and weighed 800 pounds. The wall of its left ventricle, the chamber that does the heavy lifting, might have been 6 inches thick with solid muscle. This wasn't a heart, it was a hydraulic engine. To protect the brain, its arteries would have been reinforced, like high-pressure industrial pipes, and like a giraffe, it almost certainly had a wonder net, a complex web of tiny blood vessels at the base of the skull called the rete. This system acted as a shock absorber. It took that ferocious high-pressure pulse from the heart and buffered it, transforming a water hammer blast into a gentle, life-sustaining flow just before it reached the brain. But what about the other direction? What happens when it lowers its head? All that blood, all 50 tons of animal, all that pressure would rush downhill. The brain would instantly explode. To solve this, Brachiosaurus needed one-way valves all the way up its neck, like the locks in a canal, to stop the blood from rushing back down. When it lowered its head, these valves would slam shut, protecting its brain from a fatal rush of blood, while other vessels would swell to pool the excess. This animal wasn't just big, it was a high-pressure, hydraulic marvel. But the weirdness doesn't stop with its heart. It gets stranger, and it's right in the middle of its face. For 100 years, this was the Great Brachiosaurus mystery. Look at its skull. Unlike almost any other animal, its nasal opening isn't at the front of its snout. It's on a high, bony crest, right on top of its head, just in front of its eyes. Why? Why put your nose up there? This led to one of the most famous mistakes in paleontology. For decades, scientists believed Brachiosaurus was so big, so heavy, that it couldn't possibly have supported its own weight on land. They thought it must have lived in water, using the buoyancy of a lake to hold itself up. And that crest, it was the perfect evolutionary snorkel. It's a beautiful, romantic image, and it is completely, utterly wrong. We now know this is impossible. The water pressure at the bottom of a 30-foot lake would be so immense that the Brachiosaurus wouldn't have been able to expand its lungs. Its chest would be crushed. It would have suffocated instantly. Brachiosaurus was 100% a land animal. So, we're back to the question. Why the nose crack? The most bizarre, and most likely, theory? It wasn't just a nose. It was a communication device. That bony dome was likely the anchor for a large, fleshy sac, a resonating chamber. Brachiosaurus was a social animal, moving in herds. How does a 50-ton animal talk to another 50-ton animal a mile away? It can't exactly shout. By forcing air through this bizarre head-mounted chamber, Brachiosaurus could have produced incredibly deep, low-frequency sounds. Sounds so low, we wouldn't even be able to hear them. We would feel them, as a vibration in our chest. These infrasonic calls could travel for miles, letting the herd communicate, find mates, or warn of an Allosaurus pack. It was a biological subwoofer, mounted on its skull. It had a heart that defied physics, a body that defied engineering, and a nose that acted like a foghorn. But all of this extreme specialization, was also its greatest weakness. Being a 50-ton, 40-foot-tall highbrowser is an incredible evolutionary trick. But it's a trick that only works if the food source is stable. Brachiosaurus was a specialist. It was built for one thing, eating the tops of giant Jurassic conifers. Its entire, bizarre physiology, the uphill stance, the hydraulic press heart, the reinforced arteries was all fine-tuned for that specific lifestyle. And this is evolution's cruelest rule. Specialists thrive, but they are brittle. As the Jurassic period ended and the Cretaceous began, the world changed. The climate became different. Those vast conifer forests that Brachiosaurus relied on began to shrink. For the lower, more adaptable Diplodocus cousins, this was fine. They could just eat the abundant ferns. But for Brachiosaurus, this was a death sentence. Its neck wasn't flexible enough to easily graze at ground level. Its whole body was built to aim up. The walking skyscraper had been built for a world that was disappearing. The very specialization that made it a king made it a fossil. It was an evolutionary marvel, A creature that pushed the absolute limits of biology, and it was a dead end. The Brachiosaurus is more than just a giant dinosaur. It's a lesson in biological audacity. It's a 50-ton monument to the power of gravity, and a testament to the unbelievable, complex solutions life will find to conquer it. It's an animal whose heart had to be a reinforced engine just to keep it from blacking out every second of its life. An animal that wore its nose on its forehead, possibly as a biological foghorn to call across its lost world. Evolution isn't always about being the fastest or the strongest. Sometimes, it's about being the most creative engineer. Brachiosaurus was, perhaps, the most creative of them all. But what do you think? Is the Brachiosaurus the most mind-bending giant to ever live? Or is there another creature whose biology is even weirder? Let me know in the comments below. And if you love deconstructing the bizarre and unbelievable stories of life on this planet, then do us a favor. Hit that like button, subscribe to Weird Animal Evolution, and just as importantly, ring that notification bell. You don't want to miss the next creature we dig up. Thanks for watching.